A former Colorado governor tells us he can't do business with Russia anymore. There's also the issue of sanctions on the Russian bank he led. Guns lost in the Marshall Fire have to be reported under a new state law. A grieving widow reaches out to the governor and got a form letter in response, leading us to look at how elected leaders respond to your feedback. And Colorado's new driver licenses have hidden treats if you know where to look. You may need one of those 90s style black lights, but it's cool. We bought one today, because this is next. There are Coloradans scrambling to cut ties with Russia as the unprovoked war on Ukraine escalates, and that includes former Governor Bill Owens. The last Republican governor of Colorado has had interest in the Soviet Union and Russia since the 80s, and he's had business interests there for more than a decade while Russia has waged war on its neighbors. Now, though, Owens says he's out, resigning from chairing the board of a bank that's been hit with sanctions. He discussed his decision with Kevin Vaughn from our 9 Wants to Know team.
I was a child of the Cold War, and they were our enemy, and apparently still are.
Former Governor Bill Owens is a student of Russia and a student of history.
This is probably the greatest unforced error by a leader since Hitler invaded Russia in 1941 and then declared war on the United States. Putin didn't have to do this.
Owens was Colorado's governor from 1999
Hi, Bill Owens.
to 2007, hinting near the end of his second term.
I'm going to be doing some international business, going to be putting some kids through college.
Of a future beyond Colorado. That and his long-held interest in Russia led him to becoming chairman of Credit Bank of Moscow's supervisory board in 2013.
As hard as this is for most of us here to believe, there are so many good and honest people in Russia.
Sunday, he resigned.
I couldn't stay involved in Russia after what had happened. It's unbelievable, and it's unbelievably sad for Ukraine. They're standing up for all of us. And I said when I resigned from the board that I stand with my country and I stand with Ukraine.
Owens praised the Western response to the Ukrainian invasion.
I think the West has been incredibly effective in the last couple of days with its sanctions. Sanctioning the SWIFT, cutting off those major banks. Sanctioning the Central Bank of Russia, that was brilliant.
The problem is not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart.
But didn't mince words about Donald Trump and others who have praised Putin.
Disgust. You know, and I thought that before the invasion. It's a time for all Americans to unite behind our country and behind Ukraine. And there's nothing admirable about Vladimir Putin.
And nothing admirable about what's ahead.
So many Ukrainians are going to pay with their lives, and also some innocent Russians. I'm sure not all of those Russian soldiers know what they're doing or agree with what they're doing, but their mothers are still going to be weeping at their graves.
For Next, I'm Kevin Vaughn.
Former Governor Owens is involved in some controversial projects at home these days as well. He's an investor in a project that aims to divert water from the San Luis Valley to be used for development in Douglas County. People who lost firearms when their homes burned in the Marshall Fire need to tell somebody about that. It's Colorado law now, enacted after the murder of a woman who was walking her dog in Denver's Ballpark neighborhood in 2020. Boulder County Sheriff actually came out with a new reminder to people who lost their homes that if there are firearms in there and they haven't been located, that has to be reported to law enforcement. Now, if guns were found, damaged, that kind of thing, that does not need to be reported. Reported missing firearms need to have their serial number with those, and if that record was also lost in the fire, Sheriff's Office encourages owners to call the gun shop where those firearms were purchased. Reporting requirement is part of the Isabella Joy Thallis Act enacted last year. The man accused of shooting and killing her allegedly did it with an AK-47 that was stolen from a Denver police sergeant. Colorado's Attorney General is going after the companies that make a firefighting foam that contains toxic chemicals that have been found in our environment and in us. Democratic AG Phil Weiser is suing 15 manufacturers of the aqueous film-forming foam. Products been used widely to fight fires. The foam contains so-called PFAs, forever chemicals, called that because they linger in our environment and they accumulate in living things, like humans. Sampling done by the State Health Department has found those forever chemicals in water across our state, military facilities, at the Suncor refinery, even airports. Research has found that exposure to high levels of PFAs is associated with serious diseases, including cancer. The AG says the companies that he's suing either knew about the harm the chemicals caused or should have known. He wants them to pay for cleanup and future monitoring. So here on this program, we try to make it a point to read your feedback daily and to share some of it at the end of each show. Be responsive. Listen to what you have to say. Well, what about the feedback that our elected leaders receive? A widow who reached out to the governor by mail was not expecting the apology that she wanted, but she did tell our Marshall Zellinger she was hoping for more than a form letter.
We wanted to let you know that we've received your comments.
Getting a letter from the governor's office is not something that happens every day.
It will ensure that your passion and concern is brought to the governor's attention. Please know that the governor takes input from everyday Coloradans seriously.
Gage Evans received this letter from the governor because she wrote him first.
And I wanted it to be not an email, but a physical letter so that hopefully it would draw more attention.
Gage's husband, Bill, was killed in the I-70 truck crash in 2019. She was on a Zoom call with the governor on December 30th as he let survivors and victims' families know he was commuting the sentence of driver Rohel Aguilera Maderos from 110 years to 10.
I said I wanted to have on the official record that the way he went about this was very harmful to the actual victims of the crash.
She sent her letter 1 month later, January 30th, with a return receipt that someone at the governor's office would need to sign.
I really figured that if it was sent with a signature verification from his office, that it would be passed on to him.
What she got in return was the same acknowledgement letter others who have written in about the case also received.
The response that I got back was an absolute duplicate of a response that a friend of mine got.
If it pertains to a very personal matter that is pending a decision, it's very likely I would see it. This was a month after the decision. I was shown it later.
Democratic Governor Jared Polis explained that he met with victims' family members and survivors before his decision to commute the sentence and again to notify them of his decision. Gage's letter is one of hundreds that come in each week. Polis does not see them all, but rather gets a weekly report of what is sent his way.
It'll say you got 650 emails. It'll break it down by topic. You got 150 letters. You got this many calls. There's occasions when I call people as a response. There's occasions where I flag a note for a response.
The governor pulled Gage's letter from his pocket during our interview. His staff found it after I reached out earlier today. It has her name and who she is in the second paragraph. I asked the governor multiple times if she should have received a different response, a personalized response compared to anyone else writing. He pointed out that she and others received multiple meetings ahead of that commutation, and he did say that he would be willing to talk with her one-on-one.
Okay, all right, that's something. I think we get that public officials, especially statewide public officials, probably get a ton of this mail, and they rely on other people to make good decisions for them. But they then ultimately are responsible for the decisions their staff makes.
Right. So yeah, he doesn't read all the mail that comes in, and he says he gets a list of like a page of what came in. But someone's job is to kind of review all these really quickly. Maybe they overlooked the second paragraph that had her name and who she was. It should have escalated it to other eyeballs. But yeah, it's someone's job, not the elected leader, to read through everything that they get. Just a picture, like our social media. Can't read it all sometimes.
Don't want to read it all sometimes. Yeah, Marshall, thank you. Human trafficking is a tough topic to acknowledge, let alone to discuss. But we know that there are people in Colorado being held to exploit them for their work or for sex. And you did something about it recently. Your latest Word of Thanks microgiving campaign raised more than $23,000 for Voluntad, a nonprofit that provides bilingual support to survivors rescued from human trafficking. They get them housing, job training, transportation, whatever those survivors and often their children need. Thank you for that. Your Word of Thanks donations have raised nearly $8.2 million for Colorado's nonprofits. We'll be back with our next idea on Wednesday.
Mask and vaccine mandates are being lifted, yet a convoy of truckers still plans to leave Colorado and head for Washington to protest mandates. Rumors that a big liquor store in town is dumping its vodka are swirling on the internet. Would doing that even hurt Russia's bottom line? Boulders show up to block a popular campsite for people living on the streets. The city insists they didn't do it. That's next.
Mask and vaccine mandates are dropping across America, yet anti-mandate truck convoys are still rolling toward Washington. Some aren't getting very far. There's a Colorado-based truck convoy due to leave Thursday. Organizers of the Colorado Freedom Convoy declined to talk with us today. Republican frontrunner for governor Heidi Ganahl spoke at their pre-convoy rally over the weekend. The Colorado convoy and others are styled after the Canadian truck protests that filled their capital city, Ottawa, until they were dispersed by police. Over the weekend, Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado suggested that the Canadian people need to be liberated like the people of Ukraine. A Colorado-based convoy is holding a rally Thursday morning in Golden before it leaves from Aurora in the afternoon, heading east. A separate convoy due to pass through Colorado on the way from California disbanded over the weekend. They said there were only 5 trucks left. So I have seen people saying online that they're going to pour their vodka down the drain to kick Putin in the jimmies. Not so fast on that idea. So you'll see claims online that Applejack Wine and Spirits, kind of a big player in the liquor space, is pulling Russian vodka from its shelves in protest of the invasion of Ukraine. Applejack says that is not true, though they have been getting a lot of calls on it from people. They said there's a common misconception about how much vodka is actually produced in Russia. Only about 1% of U.S. vodka imports come from Russia, according to the Distilled Spirits Council of the U.S. Most of the popular vodkas in the U.S. are actually made in Sweden, France, the U.K., or made here stateside. So we've told you about hostile architecture and how it works, guiding human behavior in our environment. In Denver, it's often aimed at trying to keep people living on the streets from making camps in areas where somebody doesn't want them. Brian was in downtown Denver last weekend when he spotted some new hostile architecture, boulders, plopped between the sidewalk and the road on California near 21st and 22nd. This is an area where encampments are frequently seen. The city of Denver tells us it did not place the boulders, which means this was somebody else's attempt at hostile architecture. Denver's Department of Transportation and Infrastructure says you don't necessarily need a permit to place rocks or boulders in that tree lawn area. The department did say they'll send some inspectors out to see if they think there's any kind of safety issue, whether they're blocking the sidewalk or the street.
Colorado's new driver license is full of hidden images, kind of fun for a scavenger hunt, a lot less fun for counterfeiters. CDOT hopes that a new information gathering tool will help make going I-25 easier. And it's security, asleep on the job. Something that's not horrible, actually, and it's next.
What a way to kick off the new week with sunshine and 60s. And that's the way we say goodbye to February and hello to March. Daylight saving time, March 13th, and we say hello to spring on March 20th. 60s across eastern Colorado today. These temperatures 20 degrees above average, a trend that will continue as high pressure keeps the storm track to the north. But there's a storm coming in by the weekend, and that storm means the arrival of colder air late Friday and the chance for snow Saturday and Sunday. Fair skies and our low at 32 tonight, right about freezing, upper 60s tomorrow, close to 70. We'll be there for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Friday night, a cold front rolls in, rain and snow showers heading into a chilly weekend. Highs in the 30s and 40s, both Saturday and Sunday, along with a chance for snow.
A metering project that made its fully functional debut on I-25 this morning is first of its kind in the U.S. Goal is to help reduce congestion along that highly traveled section of interstate through town. What CDOT's done is install vehicle detection devices in and along the ramps along I-25. They'll measure how many vehicles are using the ramp, how fast they're going, how long the backups get on the ramp, and how much traffic is on the interstate itself. These meters are installed between Ridgegate Parkway in the south, University Boulevard in the north. 18 of them went in last fall. The final 3 were turned on this afternoon. They'll typically be recording information between 3 p.m. and through rush hour. That info will be used to control the timing of the meter lights that allow vehicles to enter the highway in tiny little drag races. System is similar to one used in Melbourne, Australia. Appeared to pay off there. Traffic flow increased by 25%, and the average speeds improved 35 to 60% during peak travel. So good luck faking the new Colorado ID, kids. There's no kids watching this show. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, state of Colorado has a new license. Hey, look, it's Marshall. This is the new style license. Look at that. This is about 100 times. It's not a tiny Marshall that fits in your pocket. So the most prominent thing on the card is the Mount Sneffels image in the background. Artwork is from Colorado photographer Matt Nunez. On the back, an illustration of Sprague Lake, based off a photo taken by Colorado's Gabriel Dupont. If you zoom on the card, there is some unique security. It's microprint. Each of the state's 65 counties is listed in the microtext on the back of the card. It's the very subtle little line that runs between the green forest and the bluish-gray mountains there. There's also a columbine flower that you can find on the front of the new license if it's in the right light. One of several designs on the card that can only be seen under a certain light. So when you hand that ID to the bouncer at the club on a Friday night, like Marshall does, the black light will reveal there's a stegosaurus on the front. That's an homage to the bone found during the construction of Coors Field. And on the back, under the black light, there's a trout jumping out of the water, Colorado in script. It's pretty neat. Okay, check this out though. Front, bottom right. Eat it, New Mexico. There's a Pueblo chili that fades back and forth with a Colorado sea, depending on the angle that you're looking at it. So enjoy that when you take it south of the border. Those IDs, those driver licenses, are available now. If you'd like a new look license, you can renew online, schedule an in-person appointment with the DMV, or you can just wait until they tell you that you have to. It's a well-earned nap after a morning of sweeping for bombs and weapons. The photos and your feedback next. A nap as part of your work schedule? That's something that isn't horrible. Meet Rue, K-9, been with the Denver Sheriff's Department for more than 5 years. She and her handler, Deputy Swan, are assigned to the downtown courthouse. Once they do their sweeps through the building, Rue has scheduled nap time. Deputy Swan takes her to the same place every day to rest and get her belly rubbed by passing courthouse employees. I would take the nap as part of my work schedule. I would not enjoy people walking by touching my belly. I feel like that would be weird. To your feedback now, Janet writes in, noticing that I was wearing my glasses for much of last week. She said, Kyle, the glasses make you look more knowledgeable and credible. Janet, I assure you, I'm not actually any more knowledgeable or credible when I have them on, though. It's the same low baseline the entire time. Keith Glenn says, can we house Ukrainian refugees? Possibly at some point, Keith, but that's going to be a ways off in the future. We'll stay on that situation and let you know if there are any folks who are actually being resettled to the U.S. as a result of the war in Ukraine. Dan Corwin says, do you read all your email? I'm assuming you don't, since I haven't received a response to my email earlier this morning. Dan, I do read all the email that comes into Next. Do I drop everything in my life to respond in that moment? I do not. See you next time.